The morning sunlight poured through the crystal windows of the Grand Ashford Hotel, painting golden reflections across polished marble floors where the city's wealthiest guests were gathering for one of the year's most anticipated birthday celebrations. Every newspaper had covered the event for weeks because it wasn't just another glamorous party. It was the birthday of Victoria Hale, the brilliant CEO who had built a billion-dollar company before turning 35. Yet no headline could have prepared anyone for what happened that afternoon. As cameras flashed and influential guests waited for her grand entrance, Victoria walked into the ballroom holding the hand of a quietly dressed single father. Then, with complete confidence, she looked at the stunned crowd and introduced him as her fiancé. Gasps echoed across the room, champagne glasses froze in midair, and the whispers began immediately. Nobody understood why one of the country's most successful women had chosen an ordinary father instead of the famous entrepreneurs, celebrities, and powerful executives who had spent years trying to win her heart. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us whether you believe kindness deserves a second chance, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Vault for more emotional stories that remind us love can appear when we least expect it. Only a few weeks earlier, Nathan Mercer had been living a life that felt invisible to everyone except his 8-year-old daughter, Iris. Every morning began before sunrise. He prepared breakfast, packed lunches, braided Iris's hair after watching countless online tutorials, and hurried to his construction maintenance job where long hours barely covered rent and school expenses. His wife had passed away 4 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving Nathan with overwhelming grief and responsibilities that seemed impossible to carry alone. Friends slowly disappeared, invitations stopped coming, and life became a cycle of work, parenting, bills, and silent nights filled with memories he never shared with anyone. Despite the hardship, Nathan never allowed bitterness to enter his daughter's world. Their apartment was small, the furniture was old, and the refrigerator was often nearly empty before payday, but laughter somehow survived inside those walls. Iris believed her father could fix anything because every broken toy, leaking faucet, or difficult homework assignment eventually ended with his patient smile. Nathan often skipped buying new clothes for himself so Iris could attend school events without feeling different from her classmates. Every sacrifice became another quiet promise that his daughter would never doubt she was loved. Victoria Hale's world looked completely different from the outside. Magazine covers described her as fearless, brilliant, and unstoppable. Investors admired her confidence, employees respected her leadership, and business rivals feared her determination. Yet behind the luxury penthouse and corporate success existed a loneliness she carefully hid from everyone. Since losing both parents within 2 years, she had buried herself in work until success became her only companion. Lavish dinners, expensive vacations, and endless awards never filled the emptiness waiting for her every evening. One rainy afternoon changed everything. Victoria's chauffeur accidentally splashed muddy water onto Nathan and Iris while they walked home carrying groceries. The expensive black car stopped immediately. Security expected Victoria to remain inside, but she stepped into the rain herself, apologizing sincerely. Nathan smiled gently instead of becoming angry. He reassured Iris that accidents happened and helped gather the scattered groceries before Victoria's assistants could even react. She noticed how carefully Nathan comforted his embarrassed daughter instead of worrying about his soaked clothes. Feeling responsible, Victoria insisted on replacing the ruined groceries. Nathan reluctantly accepted only after realizing refusing would embarrass Iris even more. They ended up sharing coffee inside a small neighborhood cafe while waiting for the rain to slow. For the first time in years, Victoria met someone who had absolutely no interest in her wealth or influence. Nathan spoke only about raising Iris, the importance of kindness, and how difficult days became manageable when someone chose compassion instead of anger. Their unexpected meeting stayed in Victoria's mind for days. She found herself thinking about the tired father whose quiet strength seemed greater than many powerful executives she dealt with every day. Weeks later, she quietly arranged a scholarship through her foundation after discovering Iris's school struggled to support talented children from low-income families. Nathan never knew Victoria had personally approved the funding. Life continued bringing them together through small coincidences. Victoria volunteered at community events more often, partly because she hoped to see Nathan again. Iris adored Victoria immediately because unlike most wealthy adults she had met, Victoria listened carefully to children's stories without checking her phone or rushing away. Slowly, three lonely hearts discovered unexpected comfort in one another. Nathan remained cautious. He believed their worlds were simply too different. He had experienced enough disappointment to know fairy tales rarely happened in real life. Rumors began spreading online after photographers captured Victoria visiting the community center where Nathan volunteered on weekends. Social media exploded with cruel assumptions. Some claimed Nathan was chasing money. Others insisted Victoria was using him for publicity. Neither accusation reflected reality, but public opinion rarely waited for truth. Victoria ignored every headline because she had spent years learning that successful women were criticized regardless of their choices. Nathan, however, struggled deeply. He worried Iris would eventually become the target of gossip. He even considered ending their growing friendship to protect his daughter from unnecessary attention. Then came the invitation that changed everything. Nathan received an elegant envelope delivered by hand. Inside was an invitation to Victoria's birthday celebration, attended by hundreds of influential guests. At first he laughed, convinced it had been sent by mistake. Why would someone like him belong among billionaires and celebrities? He almost declined immediately. Iris, however, encouraged him with innocent excitement. She reminded him that courage sometimes meant accepting kindness instead of running away from it. On the day of the celebration, Nathan borrowed a well-tailored suit from an old friend because buying one was impossible. Looking into the mirror, he still felt completely out of place. Iris hugged him before he left and whispered that her mother always believed good people eventually found each other. Those words stayed with him throughout the drive to the hotel. The ballroom sparkled beneath magnificent chandeliers. Every table displayed breathtaking flowers imported from around the world. Famous business leaders exchanged conversations while reporters searched for exclusive photographs. Nathan stood quietly near the entrance, feeling invisible despite being surrounded by luxury beyond anything he had ever imagined. Victoria entered wearing an elegant midnight blue gown that reflected the afternoon sunlight like flowing water. Instead of greeting politicians or investors first, she walked directly toward Nathan. Every camera instantly followed her movement. She smiled with genuine warmth that no business award had ever inspired. Moments later she climbed onto the stage prepared for birthday speeches. The room became silent. Guests expected another inspiring business announcement or charitable donation. Instead, Victoria spoke about loneliness, second chances, and discovering that true wealth could never be measured by money. She explained that the greatest person she had met all year was someone whose bank account impressed nobody but whose heart inspired everyone fortunate enough to know him. Then she reached for Nathan's trembling hand. With tears shining in her eyes and absolute certainty in her voice, Victoria introduced Nathan Mercer as the man she had chosen to spend her future with. She proudly called him her fiancé, explaining that integrity, compassion, sacrifice, and unconditional love for his daughter were qualities no fortune could ever purchase. Silence filled the ballroom before applause slowly began from one corner. Soon the entire room stood clapping, though many guests wiped away unexpected tears. Several people who had secretly judged Nathan lowered their heads in embarrassment. They suddenly realized they had mistaken simplicity for weakness. Nathan himself stood speechless. Earlier that morning, Victoria had privately confessed her feelings and asked whether he would allow their friendship to become something deeper. She had also asked if she could make the announcement publicly because she wanted the entire world to understand she would never be ashamed of loving an ordinary man with an extraordinary heart. Nathan had quietly accepted, not because of the glamorous setting, but because he realized she truly loved both him and Iris without conditions. The following days brought another wave of headlines, but this time the story was different. Instead of gossip, people celebrated a love story built on kindness rather than status. Thousands shared Nathan's journey across social media, inspiring single parents who had begun believing happiness was no longer possible. Victoria used the attention to expand scholarships for struggling families, while Nathan continued volunteering exactly as he had before becoming known nationwide. Neither allowed success or fame to change the values that had brought them together. Most importantly, Iris finally watched her father laugh freely again. The sadness that had lived quietly behind his eyes for years slowly disappeared. Victoria never tried replacing Iris's late mother. Instead, she honored her memory while creating new traditions filled with hope instead of sorrow. Their home became a place where expensive gifts mattered less than shared breakfasts, bedtime stories, and simple afternoons spent together. Years later, people still remembered the famous birthday party where a billionaire CEO shocked an entire ballroom by introducing an ordinary single father as her fiancé. Yet those who truly understood the story realized the surprise wasn't that Victoria had chosen Nathan. The real miracle was that kindness had found two broken hearts at exactly the moment both had nearly stopped believing love could happen again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Vault so more people can discover stories that remind us compassion still exists in this world. Special request: before this story ends, comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe a person's heart is worth more than their wealth. As the evening sun painted the sky in warm shades of gold, Nathan watched Iris and Victoria laughing together in the garden. He realized life had never promised an easy journey, but it had quietly rewarded every act of patience, every sacrifice made in love, and every moment he had chosen kindness over bitterness. Sometimes destiny arrives dressed in ordinary moments, and sometimes the greatest love story begins with nothing more than one sincere apology on a rainy afternoon. In the end, the world didn't remember the size of Victoria's company or the price of her birthday celebration. People remembered the courage of a woman who valued character above status and the quiet strength of a single father who never stopped believing that love, once lost, could still find its way home.